Marilyn, would you like to introduce tonight's judge?
Okay,
Marilyn? There you are. Okay.
yes. Tommy Mintz has been with us before, both as a speaker and as a judge, and we're happy to have him back. He has a lot of experience teaching, uh, both in Kingsborough Community College and also in Queens College, both photography and other digital things. So we have him here tonight. And is there anything else you want to say about yourself? Tommy, where are you? I've lost you.
Hi. Um, Thank you, Marilyn. Yeah, I teach at Kingsborough Community College. We have a wonderful photography program there. I see a couple of alumni in the crowd. It's nice to see you guys here.
Oh, here
Um,
you are.
yeah, I have a current show up. Well, I have a piece in a show currently up at the Incubator Studio Gallery at 56 Bogart Street, which is open Sundays only. So just opened yesterday.
Hey. Okay, this is what we're going to do, Tommy. We're going to have a quick run through of all the images. There are 80 of them. So you and all the members can see what's in the competition. We'll show them for a few seconds each. And then when we finish those 80 images, we'll run through them a second time, more slowly, and give you about a minute or less each image to give a little critique. You can talk about anything you want, exposure, composition, the wow factor, you name it, and give a score of A, B, or C. A is a superior image, B is an average image, and C is an image which, in your opinion, can use more work. Okay, so we'll share the screen and start the show. We won't mute everybody yet. We'll do that later. Okay, We're now going to go through the second time more slowly, and we'll ask our judge for his comments and critique and a score of A, B, or C.
Tommy,
Okay,
you have to unmute yourself.
Did I successfully unmute myself?
Yes, you did.
Great. Okay, let me get the screen back to that. Let me know when you'd like me to begin. I see a picture of a duck. Okay. So do you want me to begin with my observations or the I'm going to begin with my observations and end with the score, if you will. if that's
that'll be
okay.
fine.
Okay. So the duck to me brings up this idea of history of photography. I've been spending a lot of time looking at the photographs of the Camera Club of New York between 1900 and 1940, this wonderful era of pictorialism. And there's Eve Watson Schultz, SCHU with the umlaut TZ, did this wonderful photograph in 1903 of a duck in photogravure, very similar to this. The difference here is that it's very digital, and I feel so digital that the bright colors are very amplified in this. Maybe for my eye a little too much, but I'm thinking back on this sort of idea of pictorialism, and what is pictorialism now with digital? If pictorialism was manipulating photogravure in the 1905 era, what's going on now in digital that's pictorialist? So anyway, I'd call this a B. It's an interesting picture. I think it's a little too pushed with the color saturation there, technically. Composition is fine. It's not very original. The composition is maybe fine as well. Change angle, maybe. Presentation is fine. Technically, it's fine. It's very crisp. So we know the work of Aaron Siskind. So Aaron Siskind does these wonderful images of black and white, mostly of textures, the age of walls and grit and stuff like that is very much his focus. I'm a little distracted by the angle that this is taken. My eye sort of glides off to the right with those bricks and the diagonal that the brick sort of directs you to look away maybe from what I think should be the center of attention here, which is that very interesting patch of missing concrete exposing the bricks, looking like a mouth with broken teeth or something. So I suggest the photographer to compose this, maybe try straight on, try moving the camera around to different positions. Well composed, the impact might be stronger, I think, if you direct the eye more. Originality, it's something that caught your eye, absolutely. I would call this a B, a strong B. But yeah, Aaron Siskind, whoever this is, really look at Aaron Siskind. I think you'll like his work. Am I going too long or too short? Please, somebody chime in if I'm going too slow as we pace through these. Okay, so as we go through the history of photography, Ansel Adams is everybody's favorite landscape photographer. And if you haven't seen his work, it's worth looking at. He emphasizes the tonal manipulation of sky and shadow to enhance our sense of wonder in the natural world. And I do feel like the photographer here is working within that oeuvre, right? Within that sort of vein of thinking. And I do very much appreciate the really technically proficient way that that has been done here. Is it that original? I'd call it an A minus, an A, but it's up there with, it touches all the bases of composition in my mind, the technical proficiency, the impact of the emotion of this place, and kind of what I get from it is the glaciers that are melting. So if we were looking at the way that I think the technical proficiency of manipulating the sky in the other picture to bring about a sense of natural splendor. Here, I feel like the sky is a little overworked. Maybe the clouds are brought in from a different image and maybe they're too large. Maybe I'm just misreading it, and this is just a natural picture, and it's just such a strange weather effect that it looks this unnatural. I don't know if I'm misreading it completely. It's an interesting moment to think about within this moment of AI. What is real? What isn't? And question that as we look at maybe every picture, especially post collage in Photoshop. I'd consider this a strong B, strong B. And if that is a cutout sky, please think about the angle that the clouds you're putting into the background are photographed at, because this really looks like the camera is looking further up, straight up at the clouds, rather than forward towards the horizon, which the clouds should be if you're making a composite image here, which it looks like. Maybe it's not. Really. All right, Imogen Cunningham should be on everybody's list of photographers to be studying. Imogen Cunningham was one of the great first pictorial, then modern photographers working in the F64 group with Edward Weston and all those wonderful modern photographers, observing the forms of things like leaves close up, aloe plants, and I don't know, anything that has this wonderful detail that they would show crisply and clearly. I'm sure everybody knows about them. So this picture brings that to mind, and I enjoy that. However, there's certain things that distract me from that enjoyment. And really it's that, please tell me I'm wrong again, but I really feel like there's a strong vignette on this picture that's square. And that distracts me from the roundness of the shapes that the artist, I think, is drawing my eye into enjoying within this leaf. So yeah, that's a B. It's a very interesting beginning. Don't let the technique get in your way. Really enjoy the plant. All right, so the story here is what interests me. So technically, the photographer found something interesting, pointed a camera at it, and sort of said, "Wow, look at this funny story: the rock and the boat, and the funny painting on the front of the boat that looks like a shark mouth." I enjoy that. I feel like gosh, am I going to talk about Roland Barthes and like what his opinion on like this interesting find that might be exciting to somebody but not to him? I kind of feel that way. I'm like, wow, I get your enthusiasm about this, but maybe it's not conveyed as strongly enough to convey it to me, the viewer that's not familiar with the place or the ritual that this is involved with. It's a B, it's interesting, but it doesn't bring me to that place of, really wanting to hang it on the wall and stare at it. It's more like a snapshot of like an interesting find as you're traveling. Interesting find while you're traveling. Once again, like the travel snapshots, a difficult one for me to engage in. Is the point of this to see the craft of the basket weaving being done? Is it the stuff behind her? Is it both? Is it her feet? I also feel like compositionally, the diagonal here makes me feel like and there's nothing wrong with photographing on the sly, but you can really come around and square things up and get a nice composition. Gosh, I'm thinking of, when I say nice, I want to not use that term because it's so bland, but this sort of, the eye glides away, I think, from your central subject here through diagonals. You really square things up and the eye sticks within the frame. This is a great B, B plus, B plus plus. But yeah, I think it can totally be so compositionally. See how the eye sticks in this one? I actually think, I feel like I'm in the Louvre turning up my back to the Mona Lisa or something. I'm not sure what this crowd is doing, if it's a rock star, but it really looks like I'm in a museum. Is it the Prado? I've never been to the Louvre to see the Mona Lisa, but I imagine that's what it is. And it's interesting. It makes me feel like it's through the use of black and white, the time, this moment seems maybe today, maybe the past. There's a few indications of hairstyle and maybe the logo on that T-shirt in the front defines it as today. But and cell phones, of course. But I think there's a timeless quality about this. I'm thinking of William Klein's picture of May Day, 1959. People are familiar with that picture. And the sort of crowds interweaving. Anyway, I think this is an A minus, but it's an A. I think this I would stare at and continue to look at. You know, the paintings above this crowd also make it even more sort of romantic. Romantic, right? How about romantic when you have the glowing plastic on the spirals of the cantina wire? Is that what this stuff is called? This, you know, it evokes a real alien landscape, figurative kind of drawing. I'm sorry, abstract drawing. That I find myself kind of delighting in a funny way, even though this is, you know, a degraded landscape. A detail of that. I think it's an A. The complex shapes, you know, really do allow me to maybe project into it and read in, oh, here's this wave, you know, washing away the Mickey Mouse, or, you know, there's all sorts of interesting games that get played. It's a kid with the Valentine's Day or heart balloon outside of school with their backpack on, the leopard skin print, or, you know, are all lovely details. It doesn't go beyond the lovely details to me. I wonder what they're looking at, but I also, maybe I'm just distracted by all of the information. It's a B, it's a good B. Compositionally, I feel like it's off to the, where, you know, once again, I don't mean to harp on diagonals here, but my eye is sliding off to that side again. Let's bring our cameras around and square up the frame so that we're not twisting so much, and you'll find the viewer's eye really sticks in the middle. Okay, sorry to continue on. Please, yeah, I need like a buzzer to like tell me to come over a minute thing. So this is once again a strong B. I feel like travel photography and sort of exotic locations are really difficult to make more interesting than what it was like being there. Cropping out a certain section of this space to draw our eye maybe to the triangle of the hat shape in relation to the inverse triangles in the water, especially with that rippled triangle coming down towards the boat. I understand it, but I also feel like I don't know if that's enough. This is also a strong B. I think of Harold Edgerton and his flash photography. This isolated bird, you know, seagull looks to me, you know, leaping up against the black background, almost like flames. It's kind of beautiful. I get where you're going, and keep it up. This is a really interesting beginning. Maybe it's not crisp enough. Same thing here. I really feel like this is a really interesting beginning of a story. It's a B. It's a strong B again, of like, why are there 2 Bibles and 2 snacks on this bench? Is it early in the morning? Is it late in the day? You know, this low cast light casting these shadows, very much evoking a story that I'd like to engage in more. And I feel like this is the first frame in it. Yeah, interesting. Good use of light in that. And everybody's gonna be mad when I say like, oh, this, you know, this is like a meteorite striking in the sand or something, or I mean, really, it's interesting when there's a minimal amount of information given to a viewer of an image. No caption, no scale, you know, and as digital images nowadays, you know, there's a certain amount of detail that's limited if we're not looking at a print. You know, that my screen only has a certain number of pixels. So I'm looking at this first as like a rock on the sand, but then I'm thinking there's something that I'm missing, because that might just be what it is. Is it once again a beautiful B? Makes me think about an eyeball. Makes me think about this sort of space. Can I go back and give that an A? I'm sorry. Now that I'm thinking about it more, it is really compositionally Correct. Its impact on me is something that's continuing. And in the end, would I want this on my wall? I think the answer is strangely yes. Like as I look at it, because of the shape that becomes like an eye. Sorry, it's well presented. All right, so travel photography, right? Location photography is extremely difficult. But when you get that moment, and how many of us have heard the term the decisive moment by Henri Cartier-Bresson, describing that organization of elements that perfectly encapture, the experience at that place at that time. The cat under the raised tuk-tuk here with this sort of precariousness of it, and also the, ne'er-do-well quality of the cat not caring, makes it a really engaging image. I also find that the colors in the middle, and okay, everybody's gonna be mad. Here's the exception. The diagonal in this doesn't draw my eye off to the left, because the bright colors in the middle keep me there and keep me with the cat. I do have my eye drawn over to those gas cans, which make me nervous and think about the potential, of what could go wrong and the tension of this moment. Anyway, it's an A. I also think it could be composed even stronger if you kept walking around it. I'd love to see the rest of this contact sheet. Lincoln Center is a lovely location to take pictures. The interesting thing to me about this picture is the use of maybe, a very high ISO to get not a very long I see people slightly blurred. I know it's nighttime. The sky is strangely bright. Yeah, I like Lincoln Center. It doesn't really go much further than that. To me, though, the impact is a little limited. I compositionally, maybe there should be more of the figures. I see there's like one blurry figure in the background, right beyond, not maybe middle ground here, just beyond that fountain. It'd be really interesting compositionally to have more of that in the frame, I think. Nice composition though, nice and square. My eye really goes into this and searches for those moments of the people moving. This is a B. Yeah, so it's interesting. I mean, the High Line as a location to photograph is a tourist destination, right? Has everybody gone to the High Line in Manhattan and photographed on it? It's a wonderful location to photograph because everybody has a camera. Nobody's paying attention to you taking pictures. How do you take a picture that nobody else is taking in a way? This is an interesting one. It's a strong B in my mind. Compositionally, it has a little bit of a weird thing going on where I'm not convinced because of all these buckets on top of that blue area. I'm wondering, I'm holding like my paper about this. What if we just cropped it so those buckets were gone, or photoshopped them out so that your eye really just goes to that blue, that lovely blue and the shadows on it? Gosh, I'm having a moment where, is it Henry Fox Talbot who had the broom in the doorway in 1839? Somebody nod or shake your head. Anyway, Henry Fox Talbot has this famous broom in the doorway pictures. This brings it back, that reference in my mind, in a kind of approachable, cute way that I feel like, is in an old European town somewhere, or on somebody's travels. They saw this cute dog. So I'm giving this a B, first of all. And I'm going to say why. Interesting subject matter. Compositionally, you're looking down at it. And the way that the lens distorts sort of that door frame on the left and creates a diagonal. So distracts from the diagonal of the broom. If you look at Talbot's picture of his broom in the doorway, boy, that doorway is square, and that broom is so diagonal compared to the squareness of the doorway that it stands out in your mind. I think we lose almost our attention to the dog in that sort of shift, get low, shoot straighter, and it looks like there's a vignette applied. I don't think it needs it. If you have a strong composition, you don't need to add a vignette in Lightroom or whatever we're working in. And vignette, I mean by like sort of darkening around the edges, right? Fun. Are we back at Lincoln Center? So this is a fun picture that I feel like has been worked a lot, digitally, whether it's been painted, talk about like pictorialism, like this sense of these fountains almost becoming a wall, whether it's ice or water at that point. Is it a painting behind them? Is the whole thing a painting? Gosh. Yeah, I'm gonna say this is an A because I keep having my eye move around, look at the characters. I'm not convinced completely by the edge that it's pushing visually, whether it's over manipulated yet, but it's on that edge of like representational and heading into the, oh, we know this is messed with, right? I know it's messed with, but it still somehow works. So industrial architecture, Charles Sheeler, the famous American painter and photographer. If this is your photograph, please look up Charles Sheeler. And also Bernd and Hilla Becker are the photography, a couple who do photographs of industrial buildings that are sort of beautifully compared to one another in juxtaposition. So that's what I'm thinking about when I'm looking at this. It's in color, and it's a strange, rusty Martian color. I feel like I'm actually, like looking at a science fiction cover from a 1970s, paperback novel in a way too. Beautiful, really perfect composition, if you will. I'm talking about all the squareness. This is why squareness works. I mean, you could take this another angle and your eye would shoot off it, but here we get to linger on all the little details that showed up. I'm going to give it an A. So this picture of the woman is speaking and holding a fan, so next to the other woman in maybe a wheelchair with so the sideways glance, looking maybe at the audience that they're talking to, is interesting. It tells a little bit of a story. I feel like it's a little dark and a little close for me to understand what's going on. I'd really want to see more. Are we stuck in a small space and that's why it's so close? Are these the only people there? I don't know. It's a B. It's an interesting picture. Once again, it could be a shot of reportage of of a thing. If a caption was there, I think it would also change a response. But as it stands alone, it's like, interesting. B. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, here we are back at that sort of idea of a very square composition. Is this as compelling to look at as an image of something that's beautiful when we're looking at sort of like, I don't know if it's thyme or a dead plant in a what looks like stucco planter with rusted or flaking paint, really, I guess, on that wood frame, and then rusted flaking paint on the iron there. So the answer is, I answered it myself. Yeah, I think you can really get into these details when you're presented with a really sort of technically, and here we have light, very, sort of well rendered with, this, we're talking about time of day, photographing it like with the nice soft shadows, allowing us to look at all the textures. Yeah, so this is an A. I'm sorry to keep lingering on my explanations, but I do think there's something you said about like, notice why am I able to linger on that? Oh, because my eye's not sliding off, it's going in. I guess it's a cranberry bog, right? I mean, that must be. So it's interesting. It could be a more interesting moment. I do feel like this might be, shot on and quickly with a long telephoto lens. I'd love to see. I mean, also sort of strange angle from above. Are we up on a dock far away? And I'd love to see more information somehow. What's he doing? Is he putting a flag in? It's a bee. It's a very interesting bee. It's well exposed. The composition is fine. The colors are spectacular. But I feel like the presence of the figure is unresolved. Alvin Langdon Coburn might be a photographer. It's like the water lily harvesters or something like that. This classic, can I say, sorry. Okay, so here we are. This appears to be Coney Island at dusk with a lot of high dynamic range or strange lighting. The sky is super dramatic. It's very natural in a funny way, right? Like here we could tell that the perspective is correct. But really, this circle draws your eye into that sky in a foreboding way. It's kind of dark. I don't see anybody there. It's a little haunting. Gosh, I guess this is an A. I know Coney Island is not a interesting subject matter to me because I see it all the time. It's a very interesting subject matter to me, honestly. It's fascinating endlessly, but it's very hard to portray it more interesting than it is in itself. And I think this does it by that garishness and jarring quality it's has going on. So pictorialism on the West Coast in 1925, there was the Seattle Camera Club. A lot of Japanese members, actually. Frank Kunishigi, I'm mispronouncing his name horrifically, did a series of photographs of sunset, sunrises with pine trees positioned on the edge of a frame, in a very tall frame that has a sense of Japanese printmaking. And I do think pictorialism often evokes that sense of printmaking. And I'm getting that sense from this image. The contrast between those pine trees and that delightful color of sunset really is engaging. It's a B. I don't think it's very compositionally rigorous. I think it brings my eye to the colors and I get that up and down zigzag. I feel like it could be so much more. There's a lot going on there, but love to have a little going up to the side and bringing foreground. Anyway, sorry. Yeah, beautiful colors. Wow. Yeah, nice light. The question I have is this the best light for this location? Look at the beautiful texture on that side. Were we passing by this on a horse-drawn carriage, trot, 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 trot? It's like, oh, there's that beautiful, castle. Or are we lingering and hanging out with our tripod and waiting for the light to pass in a way that presents the facade that we're looking at in the maybe most with the most information? And I am hesitant to say that this is it for a couple of reasons. I, I, I feel like this is in passing. It could be composed in a way that has a little bit more light striking it maybe earlier or later in the day, coming at a lower angle. I'm being picky. But you're showing me a picture of like an interesting thing. How do you get it more interesting than the thing itself? By lighting it in a way. Also, I would pull back a little bit. That tree on the left could be much more of a compositional element. I'd love to see a little bit of the gardens over there, in the surrounding area. This is a B. This is a B. It's a strong B. It's a B. Right in the middle, B. Good composition without tilting the camera though in that. Also here, no camera tilt. Good job to the photographer getting space above and below your subject, right? The center of the camera might be the center of, is that guy wearing like a Taekwondo outfit or something? His like black belt. I don't think that's part of Taekwondo. I've never done, the flame blowing Taekwondo thing. But anyway, so it's a wacky picture. Good composition. I like the strange outfit of the guy with the fedora in the background as well. It seems like a parade. It's a really, yeah, I don't know. It's a good moment, well rendered. I think it's an A. Right, that gesture. Thinking about Cartier-Bresson's picture of the behind the station, the guard, the Lazar, whatever, the guy jumping into the puddle and the shape that he's creating and this sort of curves and the shape that this guy, his back arch is creating in relation to that flame has a wonderful relation. This image caught my eye when we were flipping through because it seems so composed. And that's fine. When you're composing something out of elements, maybe it's not. Maybe this is like somebody just had an 800mm lens and was shooting the moon, and a snowy egret or a great white crane or whatever this is flew into the shot and happened to be lit in a strange, I mean, I don't believe it though. So I do think it's a composition, it's a dream. I love composite images. Jerry Olsman is maybe one of my favorite artists of all time. Look him up. And so yeah, I'll call this a compelling dream shot for me. I'd call this an A. I do think we could talk about it more, but I'm going to leave it at that. It gets me thinking about dreams. This also gets me thinking about dreams in a strange way, very different, right? Interesting though to think about the composition of this picture and the picture before it, of that moon glowing in that almost same spot as we have the lovely face of this girl glowing, right? And then that crane, or I'm sorry, calling it a crane, in that same position as the mannequin here. Interesting, just to note. I mean, it happenstance, they're next to one another. Great composition. Do we see how, I hate to see in the class, but look at the way this is framed squarely and how our eye, sinks in and really goes to the details of the light, the different light that we're getting on the girl. That is there a mirror behind her with other reflected light and this beautiful glowing light on the mannequins, and then the clothing on the side, the second mannequin. This is an A. Yeah, it's a really yeah, it's one of those pictures that you could keep staring at. Happy moment. Everybody loves a good, is that a Canon T6? Is this in a photo class? I like photo classes. It feels like that. It gives me a sense of, hey, come join my photo club. Come join my photo class. It's a good B. It's a good B. I don't think it's particularly, original, taking a picture of somebody holding their camera while smiling over it. Is it a self-portrait? Maybe. It could be done differently then too. It's nice. It makes me feel good, but it's a B plus. Makes me smile. Yeah, so there was a style of photography, I want to say like in the late 80s, where people were using infrared film, black and white infrared film, and printing these sort of glowing foliage pictures, the way that infrared picks up flora, right? A sort of little light on these trees. reminds me of that. This might not be infrared at all, but it just gets me thinking about that. The sort of ghostly forest, the inability to see, very far or deep in this, evokes a sense of, I was going to say like Into the Woods or the Little Red Riding Hood tale. There's a strange, it's very bright, but you can't see in. So there's a strange sense of unease that I'm getting from this forest that I'm looking at. It's an A. Interesting. Yeah, yeah. I'm gonna try not to misname artists. I'm thinking of like Sebastião Salgado and his sort of black and white pictures of people, but also Robert Adams and his landscapes with like a little bleakness in it. Um, I like street art a lot. And it feels like a Warhol or something hung on the outside of a building somewhere that's clean and polished. Midtown Manhattan, maybe. I'm seeing details of like I'm sorry, American flag on the left there in the reflection, and down on the bottom left, it looks like pedestrians on a warm day with t-shirts. Uh, it's a B. It's a B. It's a good B plus. I think there's too much about I'm unconvinced. Unconvinced because I don't think it's really a Warhol. Honestly, it's like, what is this somebody else's maybe, pretend Warhol that they're selling on the street? Maybe that's what it leaves me with. Yeah. So evening in, I want to say somewhere in Britain, and the pubs are warm and the streets are cold. The lights are, glowing, and that twilight in the sky gives me that sense of time. The sense of place might be the buildings themselves, the architecture, the street sign connected to the corner of the building there, and also the wet pavement makes me think of Northern Europe, Britain. Yeah, it's wistful. I'm unsure, however, of the composition. The building I want to see more of on the right, somehow, maybe if we could zoom out, get a little bit more. It's a nice B. This is good travel photo. You'll remember this place fondly. Maybe print it, maybe not though. It's one of those pictures. Would I print it? Would I print it? Would I not? Once again with this, it's like, wow, this is a magical location that somebody went to, took a picture, really amped up saturation on the color. Interesting, fairly long exposure. I imagine the exposure, was a second or half a second or something like that to get that nice waterfall streaming and the cascading water on those rocks. Is it a B? It feels like something out of a gosh, Tolkien or some other like Middle Earth, fairy tale kind of thing. Not that I don't like Tolkien, but yeah, I'm not convinced I'd want to hang it. Somebody else would, and that's just my opinion. Whoever's this is, you deserve an A, and I robbed you of it. That's a nice picture of something. This is also a nice B. This is a fun picture of a girl, at Marshall's or somewhere cool with, a bunch of clothing popping in and out of the racks, and I get it. This is, the kind of picture that goes on the grandma's fridge, and she will love it. As an art photographer, I appreciate the presence of children, but it really makes it hard to go beyond their smile and just that. It's great. Give it to the grandma, please. But yeah, I'm not going to print it. I do like the detail of her fingers sticking out on my dress. So I don't know when all these pictures are supposed to have been taken. I don't know where or how this, I mean, is this in Bilbao? Where is there a torqued ellipse? When was the last time this was shown? I don't know. I recognize the art. I'm not convinced by the portrayal. I mean, does everybody know Richard Serra, the sculptor who creates these gigantic sculptures called torqued ellipses? They're made of giant sheets of rusty metal that you walk through and feel your sense of scale change. I don't get that sense of scale changing from this picture of the blurry shadow moving through this triangle. I do appreciate it as an abstract form. I'm giving it a B because Richard Serra is really hard to do as well as experiencing it. If you choose a difficult subject, you're setting yourself up for some difficulty. Or if you choose a really excellent subject, you're setting yourself up for difficulty in conveying it more interestingly than actually being there. And that goes with that waterfall we just looked at. That waterfall must have been so gorgeous to experience. Anyway, I'm sorry. Carrying on for too long again. Yeah, we're looking at the legs of a table outside somewhere that, the sun is streaming through the holes of this public table. Lovely use of shadows and light. Makes me think of that I already do Coburn. Can I call the same photographer's reference twice? Alexander Langdon Coburn. Oh my God, my brain's falling apart at this point. Alvin Langdon Coburn. And his picture he calls the octopus of Madison Square Park in the shadow of a building, MetLife building projecting over it. Yeah, I'm giving this an A. I think it's a delightful composition, right? Did it break all my rules of shooting things square and this and that? Yeah, sometimes it really works, right? It's very interesting. I would look at it. I'd put it up. So there's my students who've been through my class are going to laugh when I talk about. There's a wonderful exhibition that was presented at the Museum of Modern Art by John Sarkowski called Mirrors and Windows, where he sorts every picture into either a mirror, a reflection of the photographer's emotional state, or a window, information out there, right? We're really talking about the difference between, say, minor white and that sort of enjoyment of light and the beauty of pictorialism, really, and Robert Frank, and that sort of going out and finding the gritty reality of things. And this is very much a window, right? We're looking into this through the window into, I guess it's Zeglio Custom Clothiers. I get a lot of information from this. But that's about it. It is just information, right? Am I wanting to feel romantic about it or feel something about it? Not yet, right? I mean, it's a good B. It's a really strong B. Nice composition. Look how beautifully square the window frame is on this. What's missing? I don't know. Some drama. Maybe the cigarette smoke that the guy's not smoking. Nobody smokes cigars anymore in clothing stores. That's what's missing. I don't know. The incense sticks there, not burning. I know it's not incense. Sorry. Yeah, this is, it's
What was the score?
the last one was a
previous one.
B. Sorry. Hetty, was that yours? It was really nice shot, but it's almost there. Same thing with this one. It's a really nice shot, almost there. What's missing here? I feel like it's too manipulated. The guy in the background, the fall off in focus. There's something strange that draws my eye away from the ladies. The edge of the umbrella, the white of her hair behind the umbrella just takes my attention away maybe from their interactions. This is a B. The white of her shoes. Is it a total composition? It almost feels like it's so interesting. You can't tell what's AI, what's collage anymore. Boy, it's really mind-boggling. Is that AI? Are there 6 fingers? I'm joking. I believe it's a real photograph. So I love this view. Does everybody know where this is in the Museum of Modern Art? Looking down from, is this the 5th floor? But once again, it's really difficult to make a picture that's more compelling of a place than the place itself. The reflections here seem to not organize. By the way, the reflection, it seems like there's a reflection on glass that we're looking through, creating a dark shape, moving through the middle of this composition with light on the bottom right and top left. And it doesn't feel like that's intentional, honestly. And that's distracting from the people and the forms that we are looking at it through. It's a nice B. Keep at it. I mean, really, it's go back to these places. If you get a B, it's like, wow, that's really good. Go back and let's shoot it again, because it's just, just off. Yeah, I mean, it's a tulip with edge detection and a little bit of opacity on that. Actually, I do feel like I'm looking at a Photoshop assignment in a way. Color's nice. It's a B. So this could work. It's an interesting subject, possibly. I'm not sure about this composition. My eye is distracted by the same tones of this fence and the fence in the background. It could be shot more square. I'm thinking about Paul Strand and his fences. Do we know the Paul Strand sort of white picket fence that's against a, anyway, look up Paul Strand and his fence. This is a B. Actually, Paul Strand has multiple fences. He's the famous one, but there's others as well. Gosh, this is interesting because I'm thinking about these other pictures we've seen of travel photography, whether it's the picture of the tuk-tuk driver lifting his cab up or the woman and her basket weaving, and having the three of those next to one, and it might tell a story of a place, even these are different photographers in different places, or the idea of travel photography. I find this to be strangely manipulated again. I'd love to see, I mean, there's like strange dark splotches. I'd love to see more information on the situation in the back. I feel like the guy is made to glow a little too much. It's a B. It's an interesting moment. I'd also say that the compositions from a strange angle. You could get down a little bit lower and not angle your camera down and stuff. Instead, still have it square to your subject. Is everybody thinking what I'm thinking about square to your subject? It's interesting how a photographer like August Sander would compose this. August Sander has a famous picture of a furniture varnisher standing in his doorway of his workshop. That's very dark behind him, like the doorway of this house or whatever is dark behind this guy. But my eye doesn't really stick there. It slides off of him and then goes down to these two guys smiling and the cute puppy, and then on to the interesting, really, to me, stonework of the ground. But I don't think that's what the photographer wants so much. You want that finger, that gesture, that interaction with the subject, the guy standing, in his checkered shirt there is having. Square, lower your camera, shoot lower so that you're not tilting your camera down, and you'll get a composition. Look up August Sander, August Sander, and the furniture varnisher, or there's others, the bricklayer. This is a nice B, B plus, great subject, good light, composition just, it feels unintentional. And also the moment, I feel like you could wait just a little bit, take a couple shots, see the different expressions that you're getting. Click, 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 click. I love the guy in the middle, his character. It's interesting when you get a sense of a place from the and time from the details of somebody's clothing and self-presentation, and maybe here we are in, early 21st century America, right? You got the rectangle phone with the phone case, and you got a guy with a baseball cap and a t-shirt, cargo shorts. Boy, that's not America. I don't know what it is. And a kid peeking out from underneath him. It's an interesting relationship. I'm not sure what's going on. Is this a picture that they would enjoy? Probably. This is a good B. Is it a picture that goes beyond that and tells a story of them to us? Not yet. Yeah, no, it's a portrait that you could imagine them enjoying. Although maybe, I don't know. I'm thinking of anyway, missing a name at the moment, so we'll continue. But that's a good B. So the koi are gigantic in that pond. The pagoda is an interesting element in this that is cut. And the koi are far away, and I'd like them to be closer. I wonder if you squatted and spent a little time rotating the camera and maybe even had a bit of fish food that you could throw to this fish, the composition would change to be more towards us instead of like looking at this thing that we passed by. This is also a little oversaturated for my taste. That's just me though. So my comments are, also, I think it's a little, could be straightened, just vertical, just a little bit as well, because that pagoda on the left seems to be falling off. But maybe it's just because the edge of it is cut. And when we're taking pictures of a Zen garden, it really is about that sort of perfect composition that we're looking at. And say, once again, picture by like Paul Strand, and his pictures of the Southwest, beautiful compositions. Anyway, this is a B. Sorry to linger. Are we running low on time? How is everybody feeling? I got a thumbs up. Okay, thanks. Okay. Yeah, once again, this is a B. The colors are delightful. The detail in the door on the left with all that sort of wood is interesting to me. The steps are interesting to me, but the composition makes my eye just sort of slide off of these things and go into that really bright area on the right, which doesn't even hold that much detail. It's just the brightest section. How to deal with this? I don't know, walk around so that you're standing behind the guy in the yellow shirt there a little bit more, facing more squarely to the wall. Or the opposite, get so that there's even more perspective along this wall and make it more intentional, but not this in-between thing. It's a little tough. That's an in-between tough thing. B. Renika Dijkstra is the name I was trying to think of 2 photographs ago of the guy with his daughter, imagine, in the baseball hat. Renika Dijkstra or something like that. Portrait photographers, look her up. Lovely bridge with the screen of trees. It's tough though. I'm not seeing much of either in this. It's a little, I'm not sure where I'm supposed to be looking. And I'm not sure that's, whether that's intentional. That's fine. One of the things that some people consider is this idea of the surface of a photograph. And, why do we want our eye to go into one specific place? Maybe you want it to go everywhere. Maybe it should be equally everywhere as it is in this picture. Gosh, I'll give it a B for that reason, because I do think it does that very interesting thing where it's a perfectly sort of equal sense of space dividing here with detail everywhere, whether it's the ripples in the water against the little branches of the trees that we're looking through with no leaves, and the light on the bridge reflecting off that water and the trees. Yeah, geometric shapes created by the interplay of light and shadows on what looks to be metal beams, possibly inside under a glass roof or something. Yeah, it's a very interesting composition. The darkness on the bottom and the brightness on top make me think a little bit about, gosh, the Russian constructivists like Rodchenko or Malevich, and the sort of sense of like space jutting at each other. I also am enjoying the tones in this, this reduced palette. I'm going to give this an A. It's a successful geometric composition. So there's cameras that do this sort of panoramic effect, and they've been around for a very long time, right? We now have the ability to maybe maybe this is a fisheye, or maybe this is somebody using a panoramic effect, not horizontally, instead vertically, to create this sort of strange presentation of this tree's form becoming maybe more curved and gnarled than it actually is. Uh, I think that's pretty effective. Um, that said, I'm not sure, once again, that the composition is completely intentional as it's cut in ways that I either say go a little bit more or a little bit less. Do you have other versions of this where you have the whole of the trunk? Just, step back a little bit, make another panoramic so we see the whole thing arching in maybe. And that might be really the shot you're looking for. I don't know. This is a really strong B. Go back, do it again. Find this light again too. Lovely light. Thinking about Japanese printmaking. Travel photography. Maybe not, but really it does seem that way. This is an interesting place to me. I haven't been there, right? The boats form a very interesting sort of palm frond-esque shape, or aloe leaf. I'm thinking of the the architecture of the Sydney Opera House and that kind of shape being created by those boats. But it's kind of that. I also feel like it could be a lot more. Once again, the tip of that boat's cut. The tip of these things are cut. If it really was about that composition, the shape that I'm finding so interesting of those triangles going back and forth, I'd love to see just a little bit more, frame it a little more strongly. Meaning back up, give yourself more. Sometimes really we cut things that off without noticing when we're framing, and just gotta give yourself a little bit more. Crop it later if you need to. Yeah, it's a B. It's a very strong B. Yeah, so if it looks like a duck and it quacks, I don't know. I'm not sure how to respond to this image because it doesn't seem like a real duck at first. It almost seems like a sculpture of a duck, but then I think I'm seeing a drop of water coming off of its beak. And I'm also think I'm seeing its tail. It's so funny that the light on it makes it seem so unreal. And because I'm so hyper aware of AI and its generation, and all this stuff right now, that I question veracity of an image like this. It brings to mind the photographs of Meredith Allen and her photos of these. You put the quarter in the machine and in front of a supermarket, and kids sit on it and it rocks a kid back and forth. It almost seems like this is one of those. It's not an actual duck. This is like made out of metal, and you're about to put a quarter in it, and it's going to rock back and forth in place. So anyway, nice composition, very I'm gonna give this an A because I'm just so confused at first, and then it unfolds in a way, and then I believe that it's real. Then I go back and circle around to not believing. That contrast of the duck against the dark water. Long lens, right? I mean, you're shooting from a long way away to flatten the tail feathers so flat against the neck there. That texture in the neck. I'm sorry. We're moving on. Yes. Yeah. The shadow on the tomb or building. I'm assuming it's a tomb because of the size of the building and the decorative nature of the uh, area around it. It's a strong B. Why a B instead of an A? I think if we're using compositional elements like that lamp in the foreground, make it intentional. I'd like to see the bottom of it, or maybe it not at all. Or somehow composed so that it's, sorry, I just lost my screen. More intentional. Where did we go? Oh, there we go. I'm sorry. Maybe if you slid yourself to the left a little bit, that lamp would be to the right of the tree and compose it in a sort of more intentional way. Or crop it out altogether. Yeah, that's another option. So this is a shorebird looking to feed as water, as you know, a wave rushes in or out of on a beach somewhere. The focus is fine. The placement is fine, and the composition, it's crisp. It's framed well. It doesn't go beyond it to me. I'd say this is a very strong B. If you're into bird photography, this is good. Can it be better? Of course. Keep shooting this bird. Are you going to get a different angle? Is it going to do something more exciting? Yes. Sorry, it's a strong B. Yes, thank you. Yeah, so this really makes me think of a picture. Has everybody seen has everybody seen, and I'm not seeing everybody on the screen here as I'm looking at this, but one of the things this brings up to me is the work of Alec Soth. Alec Soth is a photographer who does wonderful portrait work. He did a whole body of work about Niagara, the town around Niagara Falls. And there's this heartbreaking picture of a young mother with her child standing in these, it seems like not enough clothing to be out in the cold, and there's sort of desolate area. Yeah, so that this evokes that. It also makes me think of there's Dorothea Lange's picture of everybody thinks of Migrant Mother, right, as like the strong mother figure. Yeah, I'd say this is an A, only barely. I'd love it to be not cropped with her head that way, because that information about what she's wearing on her head, I think, is really important. This is an A, but with a warning. It's an A because it's such a strong subject and great composition, almost nice framing, right? Like square framing here really brings my eye, her shoulder, her breast, and then those hands. And of course the girl's face, but then the hands. Anyway, I won't continue. All right, Central Park, possibly with infrared again. Am I making this up? Is this a snowy day? Is this a composite image made from postcards from the past? Does everybody love that? Is that the El Dorado? I don't know what name of that building is. In Central Park West there that we're looking at. But it does seem like, gosh, I'm forgetting the name of the 3-color printing method that they used in the early 1900s. Anyway, I'm going to give this an A. It's so romantic. It's so overwrought. it really makes me think of, you know, Clarence Vaux and his vision of, you know, the way that architecture should interact with nature in this romantic period. Yeah, nice. It's interesting to then jump to something like this, where we're talking about very different visual language. Right, we have the remains of something stuck on a piece of plywood, and interaction between that gunk and the knot in the wood. Yeah, I think this is a nice B. Sorry? Oh, I think somebody's mic is off inadvertently. I'll just keep going. So I think this is a nice strong B. It could be brighter. I feel like there's not enough information in it. On the left-hand side, the lighting is unintentional for it to be as, you know, like look at the Aaron Siskind work and the way light is sort of so perfectly even on this kind of square composition. Very nice beginning, B plus. Very daring too. Yeah, so we're looking at a very interesting pattern of on somebody's clothing. I feel like this is shot with a phone and I'm seeing a still of something on TikTok. It's a B minus. You're missing her hands. I'm missing a lot of information. The only reason why it's a B is because it's such a wacky sort of a pattern on that draws my eye in. I barely even see the duck above her head. Maybe you don't want to see that. Maybe that's the funny thing. Look, there's a duck. Yeah, I'd back up again. Really get those hands, get more detail in the picture. More information, really. Gosh, Summer, Frank Summer, SOMM. Yeah, I need to have like a cheat sheet. There's so many great photographers, right? Who I'm gonna be maybe getting the name just close to right. Sommers is a photographer who had this sense of decay often. So this seems like a composition, a multiple exposure, if you will, or a Photoshop composite. It's interesting because the vines on the surface of the wall that are overlaid on this person's face makes it look like his nose is like a sphinx. This is very old sculpture that we're looking at and not a person. It works in a way. I already mentioned Jerry Ulsman. I'm going to wait on the other references that are floating too late for me. This is an A. It works. It works. My eyes get drawn right into that left glass by all the different lines. Yeah. Yeah, so this is a funny one as well, right? So here you have this inadvertent, maybe, composition of this bride, maybe, right? Looks like a bridal dress to me. It looks like she is in Times Square beneath some advertisement for some apocalyptic movie. And that contrast is interesting to me. I'd say this is an A. Right, this is one of those great New York moments where you have somebody dressed one way that's surprising, and then on top of that, there's something else that's surprising. So those layers of surprise are lovely. Yeah, A. Good composition too. Yeah, the cat in the mirror in the spring, right? You know, I feel like there's a poem there that I'm missing, but or a children's rhyme. It's fun. I like cats. It's a good B. Yeah, it's hard. It's hard to get a picture of a cat that's more than, this is a B plus. It's really close because you're playing with the mirror in a way that I think is almost an A. It's getting complex. And keep going. Keep photographing that cat. Don't be dissuaded by the B. The B is a good thing. Yeah, so here we have more bird photography. This is looking up at a bird on barbed wire singing. The light is quite nice, low sunlight coming in, that's nice and warm. And the sky behind us is also quite well exposed. Yeah, I find myself wanting to have a print of this picture for some reason. So that's an A. Maybe it's the moment that the beak is open on that bird right there, pointing up to the side, and the sharpness of those 2 points of the upper and lower beak, and that in relation to the barbs on the, or the tip, that's not barbs, barbed wire, the tip of that hurricane fence and the sharpness of that twisted edge. In contrast with the fluffiness of the feathers. So yeah, this is just fine, but misses just by a moment for me with the top of that hat getting cropped. Why? Was that intentional? Am I wrong? You, photographer, are right, of course, because you're the photographer, but I think I'd like to see just the top of that hat, just a little bit more detail there. Of the whole shape would make me feel like this is more intentional. And maybe even her shoes. Maybe we need to get further away. I mean, what's happening? Is she tossing something? This is a B. Yeah, sure. But I'd say careful, because it's one of those subjects that's more interesting in that moment. It's harder to take pictures of that are more interesting to view after the moment than the moment itself that you so joyfully experienced. It feels very joyful. So this is an interesting image because of the composition, right? This unexpected sort of very wide rectangle showing the, I'm gonna get the name of the instrument wrong. I want to call it a xylophone, but it's not, right? It's a something a phone being played. You see the mallets and the hand and the shirt, and that's it. It's kind of a lovely minimal thing. I'm gonna give this an A. The light makes it. Maybe it's been manipulated. Maybe I think it has, of course. But the way that it has maybe what seems to me a natural vignette. Maybe it's well done fake vignette that really draws my eye to that mallet and that hand. It makes me think about the music that I'm imagining. Yeah, I am one of those people that finds the effect of camera motion to be fascinating as well. Or is this a ripple in water? This is one of those wonderful abstractions that I feel like works. How do you define what works in abstraction and what doesn't? That's a whole other sort of thing to talk about, right? But what I notice here is the sections of light and darkness and the shapes that are, sort of generating them, spiraling around in interesting ways. I'm giving this an A. I can't tell what it is. It still works. I'm happy that I don't know what it is in a way with the caption. All right. So we have a texture, weathered wall. We have this hinge or sort of the barn door rollers and the door, and it looks like a little bit of text on it. Does it say 9H or 911? Aaron Siskin is our favorite photographer to talk about when we're talking about this kind of detail stuff. But I do think that it'd be worth looking at because this is a B. The reason why it's interesting, the tonality is interesting, is a little dark, but that might be intentional and that's okay because it adds emotional weight and depth. The composition, however, draws my eye sliding off up when you're tilting your camera up. some photographers walk around with step stools to get the angle they want, or climb up on things to get a little higher. I think if you're up a foot or two, this would be a very beautiful, fully, resolved image. Go back if you can. Shoot it just a little higher. I hope it's not a travel photo from Italy or something, but good reason to go back to Italy. Yeah, that's big. So it's interesting. The crowd, right? The sort of sense of the crowd and the energy of the crowd, the maybe positive or negative energy that the crowd can contain, I think is quite well expressed in this picture. Once again, it's blurry, right? This is not crisp, but that's, for some reason, it works. It adds to the energy, maybe. And there's that area to the left and top where somebody's holding their cell phone, taking a picture, and the light's on glowing. And that's where my eye really ends up. And then to the right of that is a guy holding his arms up in a quasi-religious fashion. Boy, it's a really interesting moment. I kind of want to gaze at it longer. I can imagine it being a very big print, a very small print. This is an A. Look at Andreas Gursky. Does everybody know? Is that his name? I'm making Andreas. Too late in the night for me. Gursky takes pictures of crowds, very high resolution though, and very crisp, but really sort of overwhelming sense of a crowd. So that's an A. I hope I don't need to know the name of every bird, but this is a strange bird because there's no feathers on its head, right? Are there feathers on its head? The tonality of this is very post-apocalyptic. Is this a AI generated image? Is this something from a sepia toned past? Is it something from some nightmarish future of genetically manipulated animals that are not yet with us? Gosh, I want to pinch and zoom and see. Because yeah, I've never seen a bird like that. It's an A. Great composition, right? Very square. Look at the way that the branches frame this creature. And I'm giving it an A, even though I think it's AI, and I want the photographer to tell me afterwards that it's not, or Photoshop or something weird. I'd like it. It really is unnerving because it works. It works. And I do see the little bit of like sort of glow around the edge of the if you turn your clarity up, you get that glow. Anyway, interesting. Hey, dystopian, scary. Is a really strong B. I feel like I'm in Cuba. I feel like I'm looking at these beautiful old places that are well maintained through generations. Why not an A? Diagonal, a little too much. I want to see a little more light in the house. It's tough. How do you get the frame the way I'm talking about with that lady still in the shot? Maybe you can. Maybe you need to just light her more indoors, dodge that area, make it lighter. It's interesting though, that sort of inner and outer space that you're photographing. They're very difficult to expose correctly. To B plus. This is also a B plus. This is a fun moment. So let's contrast this with the weird juxtaposition in Times Square of the bride a few photos ago. This is fun because the groom is making this wacky face. Maybe the bride's falling, and the bridesmaid is laughing. It's a moment for them, right? That the sort of haha, and we happen upon it as we cross the bridge there in Central Park. And it's lovely. Yeah. Same thing with this too. It's I'd love these boys to have this picture. I'd love the couple in the past picture to have that picture. And that's a good B in my mind. It's like, yeah, the people in it will like it. Do I want it on my wall? Almost, but not exactly. It makes me think of like Norman Rockwell in a way, with the glowing light coming from the side. And also, like, it's anachronistic to be standing up playing video games at a, whatever this is, an arcade cabinet. So there's a funny sense of like summer camp or time past or nostalgia from this strong B. Interesting. Yeah. So, I mean, architecture, looking up, looking down, you get different reflections and refractions of buildings. And yeah, this is a fun composition that has that sense of, the awe of, walking around a place and seeing, a highly polished series of highly polished surfaces and how they create reflections and composition. I guess that's an A. I kept going easy on the abstracts today. I'm not sure why. It's tough to get an abstract composition. That triangular shape in the upper left-hand corner echoes the bottom right-hand corner. I'm sorry, upper right-hand corner, bottom left-hand corner. I think that's really what's the effective compositional element. There's echoes of the triangle there. Actually, I know people are mad that I'm saying B and A, but really, people are doing really good work. This is, gosh. Yes, it's a strangely haunting picture to me. Is it an empty security desk somewhere in this polished museum that's left empty? Are we there late at night, early morning? It's an interesting mystery to me. It makes me think a little bit about like Gregory Crewdson's photographs. Do we know who that photographer is? Or the sort of misty dream places that he's always portraying? Yeah, this is an A, by the way. Great composition, very square right in the middle, the reflection and that light creating that diamond shape in the middle there. Very interesting, very quiet and haunting. Nice moment of light, right? Look at the light coming from the left-hand side here, striking the tufts of grass in the foreground and really creating a lot of texture, right, on the landscape. Color saturation might be a bit high. I'm not sure about the sky and the angle of the horizon in this as well. Seems to be a little crooked. We could always just tilt a little, and it'll work. It makes me think about, once again, Ansel Adams and his pictures of the Grand Tetons and Snake River. But it's not there. It's not there. I'm so sorry. It's a strong B. I feel like the horizon and the clouds, the quality of the clouds compared to the quality of the detail in the grass doesn't resolve fully for me as a viewer. I wouldn't print it, but it's a really good start. Also, let's rotate just a little. Yeah, are we in Holland? I mean, where the heck do people ride bicycles? I'm joking. Look at all those tulips. It's a funny thing. When you have this tulip gathering and this moment and the clouds and the tulip held against the sky and the clouds. I'm thinking of pictures I saw by like Margaret Burke White of like field workers in like the 1940s and like the glory of like the strength of the women field workers and like gathering hay in Soviet Russia, the USSR. It's a picture I'm thinking about. There's something really nostalgic about this idea of like the gathering of the crops, right? And here we have the gathering of the tulips in this basket by this delightful character. It's an A for me. Also, I think yeah, that gesture. I'm trying to think of where that gesture, like, is it the Statue of Liberty? Is it? I don't know. Yeah, there's something there that it keeps me coming back and repeating what I'm looking at. And I think that's what makes an A. You know, and as a photographer, for an artist, right? Everybody has their own sense of what draws your attention in your own A. But here I am. I'm asked the task. I'm stuck with the task of telling you what makes me pay attention. I think the composition of the horizon hitting her arm and then coming up to that flower is really what makes it very Soviet and, a social realist sort of grandeur of labor in my mind. All right, so this is uh, a group of guys hanging out, watching a basketball game going on at the cages, they call it, maybe at West 4th Street, 6th Avenue. Maybe it's actually 3rd Street, isn't it? 6th Avenue, and yeah, I know the place. I'm not particularly convinced that this is a picture that I would use to convey the excitement of the place. Why these guys? Why are they looking that way? Is that supposed to, is there something interesting there? I'd rather look there at the game going on. Did somebody just dunk? It's so anyway. I'd say it's well exposed. It's crisp, but it just doesn't grab me. That to be. I'm pausing because I feel like I'm being harder on figurative, sort of pictures of things where I can actually describe what it is I'm looking at and narrate a story on it, as opposed to these abstract images, which maybe I'm being a little easy on because it's easier to analyze in a way. Like, here's a triangle, here's stripes, here's a composition that works or doesn't work. It's a banister. Here's the balustrade that I'm looking at, the staircase in an old place. I'm actually going to give this a B, by the way, because I don't think it works as well as other abstract compositions we've seen. And I think it might be because the shape in the upper right, that bit of light coming down, pulls me away from the intentionality of the triangle. Maybe it needs to be cropped, maybe it needs to be zoomed out. But it's hard to describe exactly how to resolve an abstract composition. I just say, keep trying, right? Go back to that spot and see if you could find the right angle, the right moment of light coming through that. Is it natural light? Because if it's natural light, then it can change a lot, right? Throughout the day. Warm moment of the sun on a flower. I do worry about pointing cameras at the sun, where you're going to hurt your eye, or hurt your camera, or something. Is it worth it? Maybe. Where should the sun be in a composition if you're pointing your camera at the sun? I think it should be blocked. It really draws my eye away from the flower if the sun's there. I'm like, oh, I'm staring at the sun. Let me look at it some. Like, if I were to advise this photographer with this subject, I'd say, keep shooting and moving your camera up and down, left and right, maybe a little left, maybe a little down, so that the flower interrupts the direct sun striking the lens, so that you might have some sort of halo effect of the sun around the flower. I feel like right now the flower and the sun are not interacting. They're actually sort of in opposition for my attention. It's a B. Good crisp rendering of the flower, good use of wide aperture to throw the background in, but out of focus at that. I don't know. It's a late evening at a tourist attraction somewhere, and I'm hungry. I'm hungry. I've been walking all day. It's raining now, and I want a wine. I want to sit at a table. There's no table. So that's the sense I'm getting from this picture. I don't mean to like project once again onto narrating stories, but when you give us a set of objects, what do? We sort of project onto it. Is this making me want to hang this on my wall? No, it definitely tells a clear story. Yeah, it's a B. I wouldn't call it even a strong B because I think it's leaning too hard on saturation of color. These colors are a little oversaturated. You could pull that down a little bit, maybe even evoke that sense of like a dreary evening after a long day of the Grand Tour or whatever's going on there. Okay, back to Lincoln Center. So so this is off kilter a little bit. Is it angled intentionally? Right. So we're looking at a silhouette of somebody sitting on a bench in front of a cascade of water from the fountain. But the fountain and the bench seem to be angled a little to the right rather than straight up. And that distracts, right? I'm not saying the subject is uninteresting, but I can't give it my full attention because I'm falling off the side there. It's easy enough to just crop it at an angle in Lightroom Classic or Photoshop or whatever you're using. And really, I think that's what this picture needs to go to a B. I'd give it a C. Like, please give me that at least intentionality. And then I'm like, what's underneath this stuff? Am I paying attention to the pumps down there, the silhouette? Let's crop to the silhouette even. I mean, really, I think it's just completely unresolved. I'm sorry, it's a very strong C. You'd get it to a strong B if you crop it. You get it to an A if you add a little bit more of a moment to that moment that we're looking at the silhouette. Why now? Why there? Why our attention? Good start. Go back. Do it again. Is that the last one? Am I ending on a C? That's not fair. That was the only one? Was that the only one?
Yeah.
Oh no.
I
It's
have
good. It's a
20
really good. It's a really good way to end.
I have 28 A's.
So do I.
Same here.
So now do I
True.
need to go back and choose honor
We're gonna
one?
show you all the A's, 28
Yeah.
of them out of the 80 images. And we'll ask you to choose honors, the really top-notch images out of those. Do you want to see a quick run through of all of them?
Yeah, as you're doing now. That's great. Thank you.
I'll go back to the beginning, please.
I think we did. I'm happy to. Yeah,
Oops.
that's okay. Yeah, going just through all of them.
Whoops. Okay.
That's
Okay,
okay. Yeah, yeah.
these are the A's.
Great.
Okay. How do you want to just say, you
See them on a light table.
Actually,
want to see them all at once, or?
Yeah, or if you do one quick flip through again, I could write down the numbers.
Just call, as we go through each image, just say honors or no honors. Okay,
Okay, I'm gonna say that's an honors. Yeah, that's our Ansel Adams.
Okay, that's number 3.
Three, yeah. No honors for that. I'm sorry. It's really close. Yes, I think that's an
Number-
honors. That's a really tough
Number
one.
9, honors.
Yeah. No. 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 Okay, yes.
Number 20, honors.
Yeah, looks like Soviet robots. No. No, sorry. It's nice, but no, sorry. It's too dependent on the subject. No, sorry, it's not resolved. Yes, this I feel like is a really resolved picture. This gets honors.
That was number 29.
No, not yet. No, no, no. Yeah,
Number
that's
55, honors.
wow. Yeah, I think this is a really daring thing, actually, compositionally, with all of that snowy white in the middle.
Number 56, honors.
No, sorry. Yes.
Number 60, honors.
No, it's lovely, but um so I don't know. Boy, this is I'm gonna say yes, because this really does hit all the chords. Ha.
Number 64, honors.
I'm gonna have to say no. I'm gonna say yes on this blur though, because this
Number
is
67,
going
honors.
somewhere. Yeah, and this one's so striking and weird. Yeah, yeah, that's an honors to me.
Number
I'd put that up.
68, honors.
No, it's lovely. Yes.
Number 73, honors.
No, man. Okay. And then I
Okay,
think yes on this one. Oh, we did this already. Yeah, yeah. Yep. I'm glad I repeated myself.
okay, now we're gonna go through the honors. I believe we have 11,
11.
wow.
11 honors, and ask you to pick the image of the month. One
Image
image,
of the month.
yes, sir.
Um,
Do you want to see them all on the light table?
um,
Or do you want to see them individually?
no, I'd like the image of the month to be the mother and child. Yeah, 55. That's a great one too. They're also great. Come on, people. Everybody did great work. But I mean,
Okay.
it's tough.
We'll
It's
now
tough.
go through and announce the winners.
Wait a minute. Is there? Oh, there we go. Okay. All right.
First, we'll go through the A's.
Wait.
And A goes to
Wait. Oh, go ahead.
Alvin Davis for all that at the Louvre.
It is a little.
Okay. Alvin, did you want to say anything? Are you here? No? Okay. A to Julie Forenbach. Beach and a beach stone.
It's a beach stone on the beach in Maine.
And A to Florence Foreman for repair job. Florence? I'm sorry. Obviously, it's in Cuba. Okay,
It's
next.
here, but
What is this plus?
Oh, we hear you now.
Florence, you
You
want to
hear
say
me now?
something?
Yep.
Excuse me, in Cuba. And I think it speaks for itself. The guy was trying to fix his little car. And it was just fortuitous that the cat happened to walk in front of the car at that time.
Okay, and A goes to Mike Iannuzzi
Yeah,
for
so,
Fountain Group.
yeah, so this just caught my eye with the position of the different people. And the only processing I did was I dodged the woman on the left and the woman on the far right.
Okay. And A goes to Hetty Klein for Old Windows.
Yeah, I was in a vehicle, it was at a very long traffic light, and I just looked over and I was fascinated by the texture and the shapes.
And A goes to Charles Levin for Coney Island at Dusk.
Yeah, this is an outtake from a bunch of photos I did at Coney Island. There was another one I'd shown sometime earlier this year that had some AI work on it, so I couldn't enter it. But this was what you see is what you get. I like the dramatic sky, and I like the colors, and I saw the framing with the ride encircling the other uh, parts, of the photo.
Okay, and A goes to Elena Pierpont for Fire Eater.
This was right before COVID at the Korean parade.
Oops. And A to Chuck Pine for Egret over Moonscape. And yes, this is totally a composite. The landscape with the clouds was shot, one shot. The moon was a separate shot. And the Great Egret was the third shot.
This is a composite of 3 different photos.
Okay. And A to Larry Sapidin for Mount Etna.
Larry stepped away. I see his blank screen.
Okay. And A goes to Janet Susan for Circular Shadows.
You were right. It was the picnic table in my backyard.
Ah. That's great.
And A goes to Nicole Dasso for Underpass.
Hi, everyone. It's just an underpass on the Upper West Side, bridge structure.
And A for Sonia Durante, Swan.
Yeah, that's a real swan taken on the lake, and it was in the shadows, which is why you have that kind of a blue background.
And A for Mike Iannuzzi, Textured Portrait.
Yeah, I blended 2 layers. One layer was a photograph of a stone wall with vines on it. And the other was a portrait I had taken on the subway of a woman across from me looking at her iPhone.
And A to Hetty Klein for Sing in the City.
Yeah, I was walking along 3rd Avenue and I heard the loudest sparrow I had ever heard. And I stopped there, looked up, I was very close to it, and it didn't run away, or not run away, fly away. And I just took a whole bunch of pictures, and that wasn't the sky. That was a large billboard in the background. I don't remember what the ad was. And it just kept going, and I got lucky and got one with it singing, and I caught the beak open like that.
And A to Natalie Manzino, Spring Blossoms Twirl.
That's an in-camera multiple exposure, turning my camera as I took each shot.
And A to Mike Schleif, Jigsaw Puzzle.
Yeah, hi. This is taken on the vessel when we could lean over and look down.
And A for Alice Soma, Tulip Girl.
Hi, this is Alice. I took this in Long Island at a tulip farm, and it is my granddaughter having a good time on the bike and throwing the tulips around.
Okay, that's the A's. We'll now go to the A's with honors and announce those winners. Okay. A with honors to Madeline Barbara. Greenland, something, Greenland, iceberg.
Yeah, iceberg in Greenland, a melting iceberg in Greenland. And it was my Ansel Adams moment.
And A with honors, Nicole Dasso, barbed wire.
It's just some barbed wire that I saw walking on a street in Brooklyn.
I love that.
A with honors to Carlton Johnson, man-made. Carlton, are you there?
He was.
Oh,
Maybe-
sorry. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, this is taken on Amtrak on my way to Chicago, and just happened to see all this industrial architectural. So I used the Nick color effects for the effects on here.
And A with honors for Alec Rill, blackout.
And this is Cuba last month during a blackout in Havana.
A with honors for Richard Gold, Bow Bridge IR, infrared.
I'm over at the Bow Bridge often, it seems, it's close by, and I had my infrared camera with me, and when I saw the lush foliage and the sort of off to the side Bow Bridge and the sort of the balance of these other apartment buildings, I took it and it came out fairly well, I thought. Thank you.
Very nice.
And A with honors, Carlton Johnson, run for it.
Yes, this was taken in Times Square I did a photo bomb. Someone else was doing the photography. I just happened to notice this young lady and took several images of her to try to get the right composition.
And A with honors for Charles Levin, good vibes.
Yeah, this is Steve Nelson playing a vibraphone, and Tommy was right. He knew that it wasn't a xylophone. I shot this at Small's Jazz Club. I was sitting pretty much right next to him and had a pretty good angle. And that was, of many shots I took that night, that was the only one with decent light. It was a very dark club and hard to shoot in.
And A with honors for Elena Pierpont, New Year's Eve.
That was me hanging out my window because I can see the ball dropping. And this was like at four, they were counting down to 4, and everybody was taking out their cell phones to get pictures.
Great.
And A with honors for Chuck Pine, stork in tree. This is a wood stork in Florida. It's a straight image turned into monochrome and a little sepia toning. But that's the bird. It does not have feathers on its head.
Okay.
A with honors, Marlene Schoenbrunn, quiet at the Oculus.
Yep. I forgot exactly where this was now. I took it a few years ago, and but it was there were no people there. So I just love the lighting.
Okay, and the image of the month by Florence Foreman. Sleeping Baby.
This photo was also taken in Cuba, and the thing, it was not posed. She was standing exactly in that position when I happened to be walking by. So it was not set up. This is just the way I saw it and the way she was at the time.
Very nice work, everyone. Thank you. And thank Tommy, did a great job, especially with the history of photography.
Yeah, it was really great, Tommy. Thank you so, so much for so many
Oh, it's a
interesting
pleasure.
comments.
It was
Thank
very
you.
educational
Yeah.
tonight.
Tommy, I happened to count, there was, I think, references to, I think, 28 or 29 photographers. And that is, that's a rarity, no matter who the judge is or where he's judging, to have that much of a command of the styles of so many photographers. I mean, that was an education in itself. So
Yeah.
now I have to read, now I have to start looking up a number of these and seeing how that can influence my work. But that was a great show. And I think your judgments were very, very good and very educational of what you had to say. Thank
Richard,
you.
You might want to take one
Richard,
of
send us a
Tommy's
list.
classes.
What?
Come on down.
You're teaching at Kingsborough and at Queens?
That's correct. Brooklyn. We're down in Manhattan Beach, Brooklyn. Kingsborough Community College. We have a dark room. Actually, it's still functional, and we have a wonderful set of printers for our digital classes as well.
You're still teaching at Queens?
I'm not at Queens College. They brought me on tenure track full time at Kingsborough, and I said yes. You know.
Oh, great. Congrats.
Yeah, that's great.
Tommy, do you bring your work around? I mean, could you present your stuff at this club?
I'm sorry, I didn't catch the whole
Could
question.
you present some of your own stuff at this club? I mean, have you gone around and given shows of your own work?
I do show my own work whenever possible. Absolutely. Yeah, I do have one piece in a group show right now at Incubator Studio Gallery at 56 Bogart Street. They're only open Sundays though. But yeah, I've had shows in the past, and I would love to know about any opportunities to show in the future.
Great.
If you know of any, let me know, please.
Tommy has shared his portfolio or some of it with us in the past.
Virtually, right? We did a Zoom.
Yes. Any other questions or comments for Tommy?
Well, not